Hello, all, and welcome back to the Center for Leadership, the podcast that begins at the center, you. I am Carrie Terhark, your host, and I believe that in order to lead others effectively, we must first learn to lead ourselves. This segment is called Beyond the Title, where we have conversations to explore the raw, unscripted, behind the scenes stories of people discovering how to turn their passion into purpose. They'll share practices, insights, and tools to help us stay centered, resilient, and ready to empower those in our care. Leadership isn't just a role, it is a choice, and it starts with showing up for yourself. So let's dive in. I am super excited to have my friend Lion here with us today.
Hello.
Yes,
Excited to be
yes.
here. Let's give some official kind of applause. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yay. Yay. I'm excited to talk with you and to share with our listeners and the people in our networks. We have both have something that's very common, and that connection around engagement. And we're both sick of meetings and webinars where people are just talking to us and we're falling asleep. So we're going to dig into that. But before we get into all of that, and I want to know who is Lion, and I always
Yeah.
start with the same question is what lights your fire?
Ooh, I love that question first off, and thank you for having me on. I guess the simplistic answer is my family,
Mm.
right? I have on my calendar when I have meetings, for an example, the title is Retire My Wife, right? So
Ooh.
I think of everything I do in my profession, every keystroke, every video, every picture made is in the purpose of retiring her so we can spend more time together and travel. So that's what lights my fire, my wife and my son.
Yes, yes. Tell me just what's your favorite place to travel? Where's when you could go back anywhere again, where would you go back?
Amsterdam. Um,
Mm.
we usually take a European trip every
Okay.
other year or so forth. And my wife absolutely loves Amsterdam. And I have a very funny story about our trip when we went to Paris as well. But I think the first place would be Amsterdam.
Oh, love that. I have never been. And I have not done a lot of international travel, but it is definitely on my bucket list. I'd like to get to Ireland, which is at the top of my list, where some of my roots come from, and to be able to check that out. So that's pretty cool. So tell me, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say really quick before we jumped into that because here's another coincidence. And most won't believe it, but when we did our family tree,
Yeah.
my great going all the way back, grandfather and grandmother um, is from Ireland and France. So I got a
Yay.
little Irish in me.
Little Irish in you. Gosh. Yes. I didn't realize I don't think I realized that I had Irish, that I was part Irish until very later in my life. And I mean it was obvious my mother, my paternal grandmother's last name was Killian. And so as I, learning a little bit more, I was like, oh, this is really cool. But I have a lot
Yeah.
of different Western European in me, but Irish, somewhere my strawberry blonde hair comes from, and my light skin and freckles. So, but yeah, so just tell me a little bit about you. Like when you think
Mm.
about how did you get here? What are some things, some passions, and things that have happened in your life that have gotten
Whew.
you to where you are today? Like, let's start.
Wow. I'll give you the abridged version, right?
Yeah.
Because my aunt continuously tells me I need to write a book
Mm.
about my life and so forth. So I love to start off by saying that the streets made me. And what I mean by that is I lived two lives.
Mm.
I lived a life of poverty in the beginning. Then my granddad got injured, big lawsuit, and we instantly became millionaires. But we were still living in the ghetto.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then at the same time, I lived two lives because I didn't know it at the time, but when I got tested, I had an IQ of 152. I have an IQ of 152. So I was very smart, but I couldn't show it, right?
Yeah.
Because that was not something young kids, smart wasn't a good thing back then, right? You got
No.
teased and so forth. And so I lived those two lives, and I had that life of where I started getting a great education, but I was still living in the hood, and I could people would say, "You don't talk like you belong here," and stuff. So I had to kind of walk that fine line, and that's where it all started. And from there, the story takes positive and a tragic turn, but it's what made me who I am today.
I I I love to hear. I mean, part of what I do, it really centers around experiences, and
Yeah,
to get people to understand how important our experiences are, and one, shaping who we are, who we've become, but also
yeah,
shaping what we think is possible. And that there's so much value in having conversations just like this to understand someone else's experience, to understand where you've come from, that internal struggle of I'm not really sure where I fit or where I belong because I think and feel this way, but my environment says something different. So, what does
yeah,
that really mean for me? And I think there are a lot of people that can relate to that in a lot of different places where they kind of felt that same struggle where it's like I don't necessarily feel like I fit in my family or in my school or
mm,
my crowd of friends, right? So tell us a
yeah,
little bit about how did you navigate through that?
yeah. Oh, it was, and here's a term that I think most people understand now, but of course, as a kid, you didn't understand it. Code switching, right?
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
when you can go to one environment into work, and so that was who I was. I didn't know what that word meant then. I didn't know I was doing it, but you start to really understand that you needed to do it at certain times to be able to fit
Yeah.
in. And I
Yeah.
became really great at it because I still wanted to have friends. I still wanted to have fun, but my brain just saw things in so many different ways. And I think I'm still undiagnosed, but I think I have ADHD as well, and maybe a slight autism in there somewhere, because our son has ADHD. He was tested, and so we know it. And usually one parent has it, and I always usually tell my wife it's her.
Yeah.
But so I know that it's me, but I found out that I had an eidetic memory,
Mm.
which means I could just see something, I could read something, and I just knew it. It was just like stuck in my head. Even in school, I'd be asleep, and the teacher would call me, and I would just pop up, and I'd be like, "Oh, the answer is this, 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 and this." Because I was an audible learner for whatever reason. I could
Yes.
be asleep and still hear things, and so, but of course, those kids, they, kind of teased me on those kind of things. But that was just the beginning of it, because I would go to my friends and I could talk the slang, and I go to school or go to, some other training, and I would switch automatically into that brainiac kind of mode at that moment. And
Yeah.
still to
Yeah.
this day, I think I found myself doing it occasionally.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. When I did a science fair project back in, I don't know, seventh grade, maybe. And science was not an interest to me at all. But we had to do it. And so, I had to find out. And my science fair project was the conscious versus the subconscious. And
Mm,
I gave my younger brother kind of like a test. He had to study for it and give him a test. And so one of the chapters, he had to read it and then he had to take the test on it. And the other one, he never read it, but I just played it to him at night before he went to bed and then took the
yeah,
test. Um, but it is like so much of when our brains are tuned in to some of those things. And I think
hmm,
for you to have that sense or your senses to be heightened in that way to just absorb that audio, and for it
yeah,
to find its place. And it's so cool. And I think each one of us has kind of a superpower in that way that we maybe don't always tap into or know that it
yeah,
exists. But I think to that, it's understanding that we all have different learning styles and how we communicate in business or in relationships. Just like, you're talking kind of about your code switching is really, I think, as an adult, I have found that understanding that and understanding what I need to adapt in my personality or in the way that I communicate to someone is what finds that
Mhm.
connection. Because I know not everybody thinks like me. I mean, and you've
Right.
lived that life where you're like, why doesn't everybody see the world like I
Yes.
do?
Yes, there is a funny episode, and I tell anyone to go look this up, and you will see visually what I mean by this. But it came from 30 Rock. It was a while ago, and there was a moment when Alec Baldwin was talking to, I can't remember his actual name, but Kenny, I think, was the name of the character. And he said, I would love to see how the world looks through your eyes. And so
Yeah.
then the camera showed it as he's looking at everyone when he's talking to them in the work world and everything. And they were Muppets. So as he's seeing the world, everyone's talking to him as a Muppet. And it was just kind of funny when you reference that, and it's exactly right, because those things happened. It shaped me to the point where uh, we've learned, my wife and I've learned to adjust those things to our kids, right? Because like the love
Mm,
languages, everyone
yes.
loves differently, so everyone in work or the way they learn is different. And so we adjusted that even to our son. He had a podcast for a little while, and it was called ADHD is My Superpower,
Oh, I love that.
and we embraced it. And he would bring on other younger kids who were going through some things with him like that, and they just talked, and it was a outlet, right? He got to, and we just let him jump up, run around, express that energy, uh, instead of how I grew up, right? Sit down, stop
Mm,
talking, don't,
mhm.
you know we just said, as long as you ain't breaking nothing, have fun.
Yeah. Oh, I love that approach. And I think that to embrace those differences, right? And I think I've said this on this podcast before too, that like when we can break down and be okay, understanding that we are different and understanding that we have different experiences and being okay with learning from them and hearing a new perspective doesn't take away from the experience that I have. It adds to the value of what I can relate to or connect to.
Right.
And giving people that space to be like, it's whoever you are is okay. Like however
Yeah.
you see the world is okay. And let's figure out how we can help each other make that connection or see what you see. I think it's so cool and so valuable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And to be open enough, one of the things we used to say, it's okay to not be okay, right?
Mm,
Because I'm a big proponent of mental health as well, and I love how, especially this generation now, they embrace it. They have no
yeah.
fear in saying, "I need a mental check. Let me,
Yeah.
right, take care of yourself." One of the things. So my wife and I, we have four boys and eight grandkids, just to
Oh
give a
my
context
goodness.
of this.
Yay.
Yes, I know, right? So it's never a month or holiday we're not getting some kind of gift or something.
Yes.
But I always tell my son, one of the things that I want to build with him is memories over money, right?
Mm,
Money, but I tell him, I say, you need money to make those memories too.
yes, we
So,
do.
so I was like, but I want you to share with your family, when to tell them, hey, when I was 30 years old, this is where mom and I and dad used to vacation, or dad used to take me fishing here, or this is my, right. So I want those memories so that they can be passed down as well.
Yeah.
So we don't focus directly on um, just pushing the work, 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 right? Like, because you can burn out so much on that. We also tell him that you need to find that balance. He's 11 now, but just don't tell him.
Yeah.
I don't ask him what does he want to be when he grows up. That's what I used to get asked, and every kid tell you fireman, police officer. No, when he comes in from school, I don't ask him how's he doing. That question
Mm,
doesn't ignite his brain. That's a
mm-mm,
canned response. I'm good.
mm-hmm.
No,
Mm-hmm.
hey,
Mm-hmm.
what did you learn today that was
Yes.
valuable? Who did you
Yes.
make laugh today? Right? Those
Yes.
little things, it engages his brain so he has to think.
Yes. Oh, man, it's like you've taken my class before. But that is one of the things that we talk about in our classes, and having that conversation is asking those questions that aren't yes or no, that aren't the like, what is one thing you did in school today? What is
Yeah,
just something you got really excited about, just as you said, like what's something that you're looking forward to in the rest of the week, and having those questions that aren't just that automatic, but turn on that active part of our brain to listen and to
hmm,
to process, and knowing that people process in different ways too, right? I mean, there's
yeah,
some that in class we call them, we have our microwave thinkers, right? Where I have a thought in my head, it comes out my mouth, right? Like that's me. Like I'm processing as
yeah.
things are coming out of my mouth, and I'm just as surprised as you are as how it comes out. But then we have our processors that are kind of our crock pot thinkers that like to marinate and stew and think about, and before they answer, they want to, they're going over in their head what it's going to sound like, or what it is, how they want to form
Yeah,
their thought. And my kids are definitely more crock pot thinkers. And it used to drive me crazy when they would come home from school because I ask a question, I don't get a response. So I'm asking another question, and they're like, whoa,
right.
I'm still
Yeah,
processing.
I'm like you. I just speak, and my wife was, and a part of that I feel could be, again, and I say this not being diagnosed, but I think for a small part of me, I have some form of autism. I don't know it, but I need to get tested to see.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
Well, we're
I'm
all
too
on the
old.
spectrum somewhere.
Right, right. Yeah, I'm like, I'm too old. I don't need it. What is it going to do? But I'm like that. There's a time we were at an event, and um, we were all just standing up, a cocktail event, and someone said something, and everyone started laughing. I just didn't. And then someone said, "Oh, something to the point where it made me give a response." And I was like, "Because it wasn't funny."
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
everyone looked at me as if I just crashed the party. But you asked, and I gave you my honest answer. You asked me why I wasn't laughing. That should be self explanatory. I'm probably not laughing because I didn't find it funny. And I'm not the person who's going to give you the fake canned laugh
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
because everyone else is. And my wife, she
Yeah.
just looked at everyone like, that's him.
Yeah. Yeah. There you know. You asked.
You asked, right? Don't ask a question if you don't truly want the answer. And I think most people don't, right? We are so, for the most part, societal norm that we feel like we have to do something, right?
Yes.
And one of the ways I break that when I'm kind of talking to people and working to figure out, is this person someone who I want to work with? Because a lot of times people, when they bring in a potential client or potential someone to speak to, the client is usually kind of saying, "Oh, I want to see if I want to work with them." I want to see if I want to work with you, even
Mm.
though I'm bringing you in to speak, because I got my boundaries, and that's one of them. Are you going to be a headache down the line? And I'm like, right. So I'm very straightforward.
Yeah.
I use my IG, and for anyone who's listening, that's not Instagram, right? I start my meetings off by saying, here's my intention, here's my goal for this meeting. So we establish, okay, we're both kind of on the same page, or someone, oh, I thought it was going to be a little bit different. I love communication. And I think, and then I'm passing back to, I think one of the biggest issues is most people say, when you talk to them, you say, what's one of the most important things in a relationship? Relationship with family, friends, business, whatever. And they will say communication. And I
Mm-hmm.
go, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not though.
Mm.
The biggest important thing is understanding,
Yes.
because I can communicate all day, but if you don't understand what I'm saying, then it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter what I say if you don't understand what I'm giving to you or receiving it, right? So,
We need a
yeah, that's
celebration on that, because two things that I want to hit on. One is the IG.
okay.
Like, let's talk about the IG. Like that was so good, because what our intention and our goal, and I want to make sure that people hear that, because a lot of times we're in our head, we might know, we don't always communicate that to other people, and people come into conversations or
Mm,
meetings or whatever, and they're not really sure why they're there. And then
yeah.
things end up going in different directions and nobody's really sure why. And it's like, well, because we all had a different IG, right?
Hmm.
So to be able to come together and share that, and when I go in to work with teams and organizations or do strategic planning, communication always comes up, right? And
Yeah.
it's like no one has ever solved communication. And you hit it on the nail. Like you hit the nail on the head because it's not about communication. It's about getting to that shared understanding.
Yeah.
Because we can say people use communication. Well, I'm upset about this or I didn't know this. And they're like, but you did. We did communicate it to you, but really what their problem was is they didn't understand. There wasn't a shared understanding around it.
Right. Yeah. And with that too, it's one of those because I kind of do the same thing with my son. If he's frustrated, if something's going on, he's crying or something. Number one, I don't tell him to stop crying. It was one of the things that
Yeah.
I grew up with as a kid. You're a man, you're a boy, don't cry. No, son, let them out. Those tears, they bring stress relief, they bring all kind of stuff.
Hmm.
It's okay. I say don't cry for long because that's the Marine in me. I still gotta give him a little tough love, as it, But let's get to the core issue. What's really
Yes.
bothering you? What are you really frustrated about? And one of the questions, so first I'll get to that one in a second. But when I do an event or something and I am coaching or talking to someone to teach them, I say, start your event off with some form of telling people what they're going to learn. There are
Yes.
too many events where people just come in and they don't know why they know they're why they're there, but they don't know what they're going to get from it, and they need to
Yeah.
feel like I got something from it. I sat here for
Yeah.
3 minutes, an hour. So today, guys, I want you to walk away with these three things, so at least they know. Oh, at one in three, that's not as important to me, but number two, I'm going to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
I need to learn how to do X, Y, or Z instead of just jumping in and. Ooh, I hate that.
Hmm.
Um, and then the second question I love asking people is to see where to kind of break that societal thought process. Is I'll ask them, I say, what's just think of your favorite food. Doesn't matter, what type it, you don't have to get specific, but in that food, for an example, we'll just use a pizza right now. That piece of pizza is on a plate on a table, and there are four people sitting next to you. You're at the head of the table. You don't know the four people. One person just blows on your food
Hmm.
and I'll ask them, what do you do with it? And probably 99.999% of people say, oh, I'm gonna throw it away. Why? Because they blew on it. That's their germs. Oh. And I say, okay, same scenario. Only thing different is that pizza is now a cake.
Mm.
And their eyes light up because now you're not throwing it away. You're eating it because society told you that's acceptable to eat the birthday cake that was
Somebody
blown
just
on,
flew.
right? But not the pizza that they blew out. It's the
Right?
same germs. It's the same germs, but your brain is like, yeah, okay, cool.
It's
I'm gonna eat the
totally
piece.
normal.
Right. So, and then they go, ooh. Now I'm like, okay, you just took the blue pill. Now you can come on
Yep.
into the
Yep.
matrix.
Come on into the
So,
matrix. Oh man. Yeah. I think you've taken that matrix. Yes. You've taken that matrix and got people thinking about how they engage and how they create experiences, especially in a virtual space, which
mm,
I my bread and butters in person, and we were just talking about this the other day, is that you're just intentional about continuing to, to change our those patterns in our brain to kind of keep us waking up, to keep us
yeah.
engaged in that virtual setting. And tell us a little bit about that. What is that about? How did that come about?
S- It, it came about life, right? That I One of the things I always talk about, and let me see if I can bring this up. And for anyone else who listening, I'm going to use a visual here, as I usually do. But I said it at the very beginning that the streets taught me like everything in essence,
Yeah.
right? And so, and I use this phrase when this comes
The
up.
streets ain't made for
The
everybody. That's why
streets
they
are
made
not made for
sidewalks.
everyone. That's why they have sidewalks.
Mm,
And what does that mean, right? Business is not meant for everyone.
yeah.
That's why they have other jobs, because it's tough. People get in this thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna be my own person. I'm doing all." Whew, you're gonna work harder than you ever, right? And so when I started in this virtual space, I would attend tons of meetings, tons. But I'm always observant, right? Again, my brain sees things different, and I will always see people, in essence, multitasking, still doing
Mm-hmm.
some emails while the meeting was going on. It's like this could have just been an email.
Right.
And I just kind of said that to myself one day, and it clicked. I was like, oh, well, then let's change it, right?
Mm-hmm.
My aunt always taught me this when I was younger. She would say, never bring me a problem without a solution.
Mm-hmm.
Your solution may not be the answer, but at least I know that you thought about it,
Mm-hmm.
right? You didn't just bring it to me expecting me to solve it. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
well, let's go down this rabbit hole and let's find a way to solve it. I was like, well, started asking people, putting out, feelers and surveys, and people like, yeah, it's boring. I just sit there. Like, okay, well, let me work at creating a little bit more of an engagement and a different feel and vibe um, for that meeting. That's kind of where I came up with this kind of concept, vibinar.
Yeah.
And so that's what brought me into the learning process and creation process of saying, I want to keep it still professional. I still want to keep it fun and unique, because as humans, we go to things off of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
You may hold on to the receipt and take that item back in a couple of days, but your initial purchase, your initial feeling, for the most part, is off of emotions, because something sparked that in you to purchase it, or to go to that concert, or to go to that meeting. So that's where it started at.
I like that. And I was just kind of thinking as you were talking about where and how we focus our time. Like I sitting in a webinar or, an online meeting or presentation where, one person is talking and, whatever, there's a PowerPoint, um, you know, about 20 minutes in, my eyes glaze over, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, I can sit down and watch a whole Netflix series on a weekend and barely get off of the couch.
Mm. That's because, and this goes back into my realm, right? Because for those, I don't think I shared this, but
No.
next part of my life, retired. I went to Hollywood, worked in that space, movies, etc. Right, and that's because that movie's structured to keep your attention. Usually, the time frame is usually 7 seconds. There's another switch to another scene, another frame. You go from the grocery store to the park to someone's backyard to the mountainside, whatever it is. There's other things involved as well, but they're not just leaving it on one kitchen scene for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? For the most part, they're structurally, or something will happen in that kitchen scene if they leave it longer. A pan drops or something. And so that's also part of what I do in my space, right? I'm bringing up different things, uniquely positioned at different times, because it makes the brain go, what? What was that?
Something's
Oh,
different.
right. And it just brings you back into the space. So, yeah, when you
Yeah.
said that you could watch a movie, but in that movie, there's still things that are happening differently, to keep your brain saying, oh, there's lighting changes, all kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
real quick, I said this, right now, I won't say the name, but there's a major chain store that's changing their light bulbs from the white fluorescent bulbs to the blue bulbs that emits the light, like from our phones, right?
Mm.
And they're doing that strategically for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
but right,
Mm-hmm.
so
It is
oh,
it is interesting, when you think about creating engaging experiences and where you really want people to work together to solve problems together, right? It is more than just showing up and having a couple of talking points. I know, like for me, when I'm in person, I'm paying attention to the environment. I'm paying attention to, I
mhm.
want to know what the room looks like before I get there. I want to have the table set up in a certain way so that, regardless of, or thinking about how I want people to engage, right? If I want a lot of small groups, I want circle tables. If I want a large group to be listening to each other, I want to do it in a U shape. I want space on the walls where we can get up and move around and do different small groups and activities. I want it to feel like an innovative space. So when I'm working
Yeah.
with teams who like we need to be really innovative and creative and do something different, then I want you to leave your workspace.
Yeah.
Go somewhere different, right? Experience something different because that shapes how we engage and what parts of our brain are going on. And so I love that you have taken your what you know in movie and the movie structure or the cinema structure, and now we're like, okay, so I'm going to create that in the same space in a meeting that is going
Hmm.
to continue to disrupt that pattern because we our brains are so efficient to get into our patterns and to assume that we know what's going on and just kind of fade into the background and
Yeah.
go on to do something else. But if there's something always coming at us, and with technology, our brains have changed that we
Yeah.
need that, right? The lighting, all of those things. So it's so cool that you do that.
And and again, that went right down to that thing. I am always a person like, what can I do different? My concept and my coach taught me this. She said, there's 10 people who do the same exact field that you do. Like you're in a room pitching for Shark Tank kind of style.
Mhm.
They're only going to pick one person. Y'all all do the same exact thing. What separates you from the other nine? Right? What are you? Everyone go, oh, I work hard. I'm going to be the hardest. Oh, that doesn't help. Like, let's get real. Everyone's working hard. Everyone worked hard to be in the room where you're at right now. What separates you, right? And so I went down that path. And how you're speaking about the brain. So again, for those who are listening, I'm going to put a visual up right now. It's
Yeah.
a big circle. This is how I do my Zoom rooms. This is a Zoom meeting. And in this big circle, if you're listening, there's about like 8, 9 other little circles around the outside. And as the active speaker starts talking, they automatically get put into the center big circle, almost like the knights of the round table, if you will,
Yeah.
right? So, and when people come into that room like that in that Zoom kind of meeting instead of the normal just squares like the Brady Bunch kind of a thing, their brain and immediately goes like, because we would always put out a survey afterwards and ask them, what made you kind of stay or think about? And they were like, I just had to see what was going on. That it looked different.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
a different vibe or feeling. And they're like, oh, it was funner. It was more unique than the same old, you know, same thing that was happening. So yeah, you got to have a hunger for it too,
Yeah.
right? If you're running an event, if you're doing something, you got to want to say, I want to. You can't get tired of your own speech, right? You can't. Then you start sounding robotic, and and people can tell because you just said it so much, and ah, yeah,
Yeah.
it got to
Yeah.
be different.
I did, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna plug you there just to be able to say, like, if anyone's watching or listening who was like, hey, I really want to figure out how to do this differently. They need to call. They need to call you, Lion, because there's just the little things that you are doing that people are doing. Like people are using the chat, but how you can make a chat go from a chat to an actual like visual thing, and
Mm,
it is again we've been a lot of us were in Zoom or did virtual things before COVID. But, for COVID, for 2 years, we did everything here. And while we tried new things and we did new things, um, we kind of either fell back into the same patterns or we just kept doing the new things over and over and over again. And then there was no nuance to them anymore. Again, it created a new pathway. It was like, God, that's not special because we do that all of the time. So
yeah,
I love that, in order to do things differently, we have to think differently. And if I can't think differently out of my own perspective, I need to add to my perspective, which is bringing in somebody who sees it differently and then being able to say,
mm,
like, hey, what if we did it like this? Or what if we had a visual here? What if we did a trivia, around this and re engaged people in what was going on? And it's not taking away from
yeah,
the content, it's adding experience.
yeah.
And that's important.
Exactly, and even to the point of where I think I shared with you the other day when we were talking, I saw a post and it sparked me to create a movie trivia for meetings.
Yeah.
Because I saw someone else, right? Like you said, bringing someone else, and I saw it, and I was like, "Oh, I can create a movie trivia, and then I can add that inside there." And so, yes, you've got to think outside the box, right? I have that as
Yeah.
one of my hats. I have a box, and then I have the word think kind of hanging out of it. And say you got to think outside the box. What can you do differently? What can you do uniquely? That's still you. That still fits in your personality, your vibe, and everything. But just not the same old Bueller.
There you
Bueller.
go. Ah,
Oh goodness, I think I just dated myself just
no,
then,
no,
right? People
you're
know now.
it's my favorite. I love that movie. Um, so I want to ask you, so what was kind of that pivotal moment for you, right? When you grew up kind of knowing you saw the world differently, you had different experiences and turning and realizing that you had a gift and a passion. Like what was that pivotal moment that kind of opened that your eyes to that?
Oh, that goes back to one big memory. And again, another one of those things. Oh, here we go. My aunt will kill me. She's always told me. She told me to write a book. I get bored very easily, and that's part of my
Hmm.
IQ, whatever it is, right? So I went to paralegal school, I went to law school, and then I dropped out. Third year, about to finish, whatever. I was like, I'm bored. And she's
Yeah.
like, at least finish. You need a degree. My aunt has so many letters behind her name. She loves education. I I'm okay with education. I love learning, but
Hmm.
education is different, right? And so the
Hmm.
one of the things I say that because I am a professional magician, and I used to headline in Las Vegas at the casinos, and I traveled the world performing magic and doing all that stuff like that. And one of the most memories that made me see that I can do it differently is I was performing in a burn unit for a hospital, and but there were cancer patients in it. So the young lady, 8, 9 years old, whatever she was, I was performing magic for her, and her mom started crying. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm not being as sensitive. I said something, you still want to kind of watch yourself in
Yeah.
those situations. And then I immediately afterwards went up to her, said, hey, apologize. I didn't mean to. She's like, no, this is the first time that I've seen my daughter laugh in a long time. Right. And because her daughter was
Oh,
battling cancer. And that something just as small as me making something disappear and coming out of her ear and whatever made her day forget about those moments that she was
yes.
dealing with. And that was like, that's my gift. I have an innate ability when I walk into a room, people can almost like see a glow on my
Hmm.
going on around me. Like, oh, what's that movie with the Leroy? Who's the master? Oh, what is the name? Anyways, anyway, the name of that movie, and then he punches and he starts glowing. It's like I have a glow
Yeah.
around me. Everyone's always like, you're so charismatic and you're this. So I think that was a moment for me that changed
Yeah.
everything. That said, I'm going to use my gift to bring more joy to people's world, bring more laughter, in those kind of moments like that. So yeah, that was it for me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
We're at a little over our time, about 30 minutes already, but before we, I am,
Space for that one quick second. I
yes.
use that in my training as well.
Again, like I love that. Just that little moment, those little things that you can, and you can just, know how to do all those little things. That's so cool. But one thing what do you want to leave our listeners? Something for them to maybe a nugget of information or something them to be thinking about as they wrap up.
Yeah, probably the biggest thing I'm going to say, and I say this to everyone, clients, I say this to students I teach, start ugly.
Mm,
Just start though. Start ugly. You're going to let fear keep you. Someone's going to do it. Why not? Why shouldn't it be you? Right? Someone's going to make that big sale. Someone's going to make that six figure, whatever their goal is. Why shouldn't it be you? Don't you deserve it? Right? You deserve to be in a place where you want to be. You just got to fight for it now. You got to be hungry enough for it. So that's what I would leave them. Is just hold on, let me do this so I can get it right for you. Um, I always say, well, hold on. Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. I'll just do it this way. Just um, hit record. Just hit record. Right? Yeah, you're gonna mess up, but over time you're gonna get better. So that's my
Yeah,
nugget. Just start ugly and just start.
I love that. You can't improve on something you don't start.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you, Lion, for being here. This was such a great conversation. You bring so much joy to the work that you do, and you can definitely tell, like you're living your passion. You're turning your passion into profit, and you're doing it. So congratulations and thank you for being here. We're going to put some information about Lion in the description so you can hear a little bit more about what he does and reach out. So we'll talk to you all soon.
Bye, guys.